Okay, so life, right? It's got a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. And it's in those moments when things get tough, you kind of can't help but wonder, hello, is anybody up there? Is this thing on? Like maybe we've accidentally hit the ignore button on, well, a higher power. But what if those times we're wrestling with doubt or trying to outrun something we're called to, what if those are actually the perfect setup for a deeper kind of faith? That's what we're diving into today, digging into these biblical stories, ones most of us think we know. But stick with me, because there's some surprising stuff hidden in these old texts. And to help us unearth these gems, I've got our expert guide with us.
I'm ready. What always gets me about these stories is how much they still resonate, even after all these years. It's those universal human emotions like, fear, that little voice of doubt,
Yeah.
that urge to just hit snooze on anything that feels too challenging.
Totally. And speaking of hitting the snooze button, let's talk about Jonah, right? He's basically the poster child for divine to-do list gone wrong. So God gives him this task, right? Go preach to Nineveh. And Jonah's response, nope, not going to happen. Buys a one-way ticket in the opposite direction, ends up with a whale of a tail and a serious case of seasickness. You'd think a quick text like, hey, got your message, not interested, thanks, would have been enough, right?
Right. But Jonah being Jonah, as dramatic as it is, it's such a human reaction. He's not just afraid of the Ninevites themselves. It's deeper than that, isn't it? He's questioning God's plan, doubting if there even is a plan, doubting God's mercy, the whole thing. It's like when you get this amazing job offer, but you're terrified of failing, so you just don't even try.
Deep down, I think Jonah's doubting God way more than he's afraid of this city he's supposed to go to.
It's like he's saying, universe, wrong number. I'm not the go preach to a city that might throw rotten fruit at me kind of guy. You've got the wrong guy.
Totally. And that whole thing, avoiding what we're called to do, even if it's coming from a place of fear. So many of us do that, don't we?
Yeah.
We run from the things that could help us grow just because they make us uncomfortable, push us out of that safe little bubble. Makes you wonder how often we miss out on our own Nineveh moments, those opportunities to do something bigger than ourselves, just because fear gets in the way. So we've got Jonah running from his calling because he's scared, doubtful, and maybe just a little bit stubborn. But, who hasn't been there, right? But here's the thing, this whole idea of misinterpreting God's actions, assuming the worst, it pops up again in another powerful story. This time, it's not about running away, it's about the struggle to trust, even when you're in the presence of the divine.
This is where the story of Jesus calming the storm comes in. Now, you might think, okay, this one's about miracles, about Jesus having power over nature. But it goes much deeper than that.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for us.
This story is really about the disciples' internal state, their human reactions, even when they're face-to-face with Jesus. They're in the boat with him, a storm kicks up, and they completely freak out.
Hold on, they're with Jesus in the flesh, and they're still panicking about the weather. Talk about a lack of faith, right?
That's what's so fascinating. They're with Jesus, they've seen him perform miracles, yet they still doubt. They even question his care for them, asking, don't you care if we drown? Imagine doubting the compassion of someone literally capable of calming storms.
It's like they've already flipped through the photo album of his greatest hits, seen all the amazing things he can do, but in that moment of fear, they completely forget.
Exactly. And that's something I think we often do too. We experience God's goodness, his provision, his answers to our prayers, but then a new challenge arises and we forget all about those past victories. Fear has a way of clouding our memory, wouldn't you say?
It's like attributing that perfectly timed parking spot to coincidence when you've experienced a major answered prayer in the past. We can be so quick to forget the big stuff when fear takes over.
Precisely. And that's where the aha moment hits. Both Jonah, running from his mission, and the disciples, panicking in the boat, they were operating from a limited understanding of God's nature and plan.
So it's not necessarily a lack of faith, but a limited perspective. They were missing some crucial piece of the puzzle.
In a way, yes. They were still on their faith journey, still learning and growing. Just like them, we're not expected to have it all figured out. It's okay to have questions, to wrestle with doubts, to feel afraid even when we've seen God move before. That's all part of the process.
So if even witnessing miracles firsthand didn't instantly erase doubt for the disciples, what does that tell us about how faith really works? What does it require from us, not just in those big storm-tossed moments, but in our everyday lives? That's something I think we all need to consider.
Absolutely. And that's where we can start to draw some practical applications from these stories. Are you ready to dive into those?
For sure. I want to know how we can actually use this, how these ancient stories connect to our lives today? Because let's be real, we all have those, oh no, here comes the storm moments, right?
Exactly. And the good news is these stories give us some real practical ways to move from that fear to a much deeper trust, even when things get rough.
Okay, so what's the first sign, the first clue we might be stuck in, like a Jonah moment?
Well, we kind of touched on it already, that resistance thing. Just like Jonah trying to outrun what God was calling him to do. What are we avoiding? Something that might be part of our own prophetic mission, even if it seems scary, overwhelming, like way too
It's like
much.
our own personal Nineveh, huh? The thing we know deep down we're supposed to lean into, but
Mm,
fear just keeps us frozen.
exactly. And then the other big sign is how good we are at miracle recognition. Or actually, maybe it's how bad we are at it.
You're saying we need to up our miracle spotting game.
Totally. It's like those disciples, right? Storm hits, and they've forgotten all about those incredible miracles they'd seen Jesus do just days before. How often are we doing that? We're so caught up in the daily grind, in our to-do lists and worries, that we miss those amazing wait what moments, those blessings that we just brush off as coincidence.
We need to trade in our regular glasses for those rose-colored miracle spotting ones.
I love that. Instead of explaining away the good as just plain luck, what if we trained ourselves to see God's fingerprints everywhere? Noticing those little miracles, a friend's encouraging words, an opportunity that comes out of nowhere, that feeling of peace when everything's chaotic, that shifts things, doesn't it?
It's like we're building our faith muscles so when those bigger storms hit, we're ready.
Yes. And that brings us to the last takeaway, I think the most important one, giving ourselves and each other a whole lot of grace on this journey.
Meaning?
Both these stories, Jonah and the disciples, they're huge reminders that faith isn't about being perfect, about never messing up. It's about seeking, it's about trusting, even when it's hard, and knowing that we're going to grow and learn along the way.
There will be ups and downs, no way around it. Times we doubt, we question, maybe even want to jump ship and book it in the opposite direction. And that's okay.
So much better than okay. It's real. We don't have to have the answers or get it right all the time. The important thing is that we keep seeking, we keep that trust, and we show each other and ourselves a lot of grace while we're at it.
So if those disciples, seeing miracles firsthand, up close and personal, if they still had doubts, what's that tell us about how faith actually works? What it asks of us, not just in those huge life-changing moments, but every single day.
It tells us faith is a journey, not a destination. It's about taking that next step, even when we can't see the whole staircase. It's about holding on to hope, even when those waves are crashing around us. And remembering, we're not alone in that boat. We've got each other, and we've got a God who never leaves our side, no matter how rough the storm gets.
And on that note, we'll leave you to navigate your own journey this week. Remember, sometimes the most courageous, faith-filled thing you can do is just stay the course, even when the going gets tough. Until next time, keep diving.